So I was sitting there this morning, and my kid came in, and he never gets up when I'm up, and he just sat there with me, and we just piddled around until it was like the moment we had to leave the house this morning. And so I got him dressed, and I'm like running through my closet trying to find clothes to put on. And so I got dressed, and then I looked in the mirror. I was like, "You dressed like your grandfather today." So I've got my papaw outfit on today.
Nice. Yeah.
Except for the shoes. I don't know. He might have wore those too.
He might have rocked some New Balances, yeah, for sure.
So got my full on papaw outfit out today.
Yeah, sometimes you got to bring it out. You're going to work. You're like, yeah, I got to get that papaw work going.
Yeah.
Get it in. Get it rolling.
I go through weird stretches where I like wear a suit every day. And then like I'll wake up and like I don't want to wear a suit at all.
Yeah, there was a good stretch there where you were like, everybody's like, what's Zach dressing up for? I'm like, he's just, here to show up and look nice. That's just what he's...
Sometimes I just have like a run of meetings and stuff that I feel like it'd be necessary to have a collar on my shirt and like a jacket. So I'll wear it not knowing. Like I had to stretch for a little bit where it was like every other day it seemed like I was meeting with somebody about something important. And so I was dressing in that way. And then I'll go through stretches like right now where I don't have any meetings really. So.
You probably have like 20 suits. So I have one suit. I don't know how many you have.
Suits, I don't have any, but I've got like
nice
7 or 8 sport coats.
Sport coats, yeah, that's what I'm calling a suit, yeah.
Yeah, my previous career, we didn't have to wear a suit rarely ever, but we did have to wear jackets a lot. So I just have a bunch of different colors of jackets and things. And anytime I speak, I usually will try to dress somewhat appropriately.
Yeah, make it a little more professional.
Yeah. And I pretty much always wear pants and long sleeves.
Yeah, I got that Pentecostal life.
I'm inside. Well, it's not so much that as it is my arm's covered in tattoos, and some people still get a little bit out of shape about it. So I just feel it's better for me to just cover them.
Yeah, no doubt.
And just avoid that issue altogether.
Perception is everything. I tell a lot of people all the time, like people will be like, why do you do certain thing? I'm like, I don't have to do this certain thing, but people's perception of you is reality. You can try to say it's not, but if there's a certain perception that you or person... Like as an example is like sometimes I'll show up too early to work, but I don't want people to think like I'm off at doing something else. So I'll leave all my keys and all my things on my desk. So like when I'm off doing things before the day even started, when people come in, they're like, oh, he's here. But you always got to think about like this guy might have been late today, but like all my stuff's right here, so I'm not late. So perception is reality.
Yeah. Well, and like in the church world, there are still people who misread the idea around tattoos, and so they won't be listening to what you're trying to give them from the Bible. They'll be looking at your arm. And so I'm like, all right, I'll just cover it. It's just easier. And maybe they'll actually focus on the Bible piece that we're teaching. Which, to be fair, I think all of my tattoos, except for like one I got before I was a pastor anyway. But so that's why I wear long sleeves like 99% of the time.
Yeah, we do have an episode about tattoos.
We do, with the great and powerful Nick Pierce.
Yeah, check it out. One
of the best tattoo artists on the face of this planet, without a shadow of a doubt in my mind.
Yeah, he's good.
So, yeah, and I have a Nick Pierce tattoo.
Let's see it.
That's how we met, actually. He posted that he had like a free, not free, he had somebody had canceled on him, and he would select somebody out of his comments if they could get there in like an hour.
Nice.
And so I was like, yeah, I'll do it. I was like late to my kid's birthday party that night and like all kinds of stuff.
Oh yeah, I was at the birthday party.
Yeah. My wife was furious. I was like, it's Nick. Like you can book with him, but it takes like 6 months to a year to get in with him versus like I had a chance to get it done in like 30 minutes if I just left. I took off work, just rolled out. That
episode was really good. I watched the whole thing. It was a fire episode.
Yeah. We hadn't done many interviews like that in a while. We actually are working on talking with a gentleman who I hope we get on. I was originally going to interview him for something else, but I think we might interview him for this. That'll be really cool and really awesome to listen to. But that's not what we're doing today. I actually brought up my clothes because we're talking about character.
Okay.
Character, and what I mean by that is having character-centered mindset in our leadership. And it could be leadership for like a business, or it could be leadership for like your team or whatever it may be. But I think it also goes into leadership of our family. It goes into leadership of community groups or whatever it is we're doing as men. I think having character-centered and driven leadership is a really important thing for us to think about. And, when we look at this, we're going to look at a couple of different places and ways that having solid character really helps build us up into being, the leader that God has designed us to be as men for our family and for our community and all of those sorts of things. So that's what we're talking about today. But I think the clothes thing cracks me up because there's, when we, in life, we have kind of a choice. There's, we can either be a character in a story or we can be authentic in our story. Either way, when you think about like a movie or a book that you've read, and there's like a section in the beginning of the movie and in the book where you're introduced to the character, and there's typically something that happens early on that helps us to understand a little bit about who they are. And then that understanding that we get drives through the plot of the story, and we see how they use that same type of response and interaction with everything that they come up against along the way. In life, if we choose to be a character versus authentically who we are, every time we come up to those like dips and highs in the plot of our life, we're having to think about and really dwell and figure out how our character would respond to the stimulus that they're receiving, versus if we're authentically ourselves and we're comfortable with who we are, then every time we come up to one of those things, we just respond how we would respond.
Yeah, it's who you are. It's your person. You don't have to think about like, well, if I was a person of integrity, this is what I would do. Like, no, I am a person of integrity. This is what I am going to do because this is who I am. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, but when we think about like the fruit of the Spirit in Galatians 5, if we are authentically in relationship with Christ, then our authentic self will produce the fruit that it talks about through the Holy Spirit. But if we are playing a character, now we have to try to figure out how we can artificially create that fruit with our life, with those around us. We talked about the teacher and the performer the other day. And, I think for far too many of us, we see people that we aspire to be like. And so we try to emulate those people and the way they respond to things. But the reality is that there's already those people. You weren't designed to be that person. You look at great leaders or teachers and you're like, oh, I love the way he does that or she does that. And you're like, I wonder if I can implement that into I know when I first started speaking, I was watching a lot of preachers. And I was like, oh, I like how they do that. I like how they move here or make a point here. And what I found was like, whenever I was speaking, whoever I was watching a lot right then, I started to kind of emulate the way they did things. Yep. But I was never comfortable speaking. And there was a semester we had, Barbaric Faith, I think it was the one, where I for the break between the January and the April semester, I watched no preachers. And so whenever I taught during that semester,
it was you.
And it was completely comfortable the whole time because I wasn't trying to input emphasis somewhere that I wouldn't have done it or deliver something in a way that I normally wouldn't, because I had kind of cleansed myself of, if you will, of trying to emulate other people.
Yeah, it's like a lot of times in their life where that kind of goes along with like the friends that you surround you with, you could become like that. The more time you're hanging out with those people. I have a friend who, it's pretty funny. Like every time I talk to him, it's like a running joke. Every time he's like, I don't know if it's like some psychological thing, but like he'll ask you, you know what I mean, after like every sentence that he says. And like, it gets on my nerves, but then like, he'd be like, oh, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh yeah, I know what you mean. But it's like, it rubs off on people. Like people that I know that are around him a long time, like his wife will, in her conversations, she'll start saying that same thing. You know what I mean? Like, yes, stop asking me. You know what I mean? Like after everything, like, oh, you see that dog over there? You know what I mean? You're like, why are you saying that? But like, it easily rubs off on other people just because you're around it and hearing it all the time.
Yeah. And you become a character.
Yep.
You're not actually, and that's actually a really good, interesting way of thinking about it. I didn't even think about it when I was working through this, of that we could subconsciously become a character. And so that actually brings back into play some intentionality on our part to be genuine with our responses and to be who we are and everything that we do, which kind of leads to the second thing I was thinking through this was being self-disciplined. And, if we go back to the fruit of the Spirit and our connection to Christ, then we look at self-discipline. We already have the Bible. We have this guardrail and framework for our life. So as Christians, it's not that we are building a moral code. The moral code was already given to us. So we live by this established set of biblical truth in our life. And so our authentic lean is into that. But we do have to be intentional with setting guardrails of, I'm not going to do X, Y, and Z because I don't even want to get close to this biblical standard that's laid out. I actually taught through some of this yesterday, and one of the examples I used was a buddy of mine who we were in the fraternity together. We spent a lot of time together, and our relationship still exists. He's one of the few guys from that season of my life that I hang out with any regularity, and but we have boundaries, and like one of our boundaries is like we don't go out to eat or things together because I don't drink. He doesn't have a wife. I'm married. Like there's stages and things in our life that he's chasing that I'm not willing to chase, but we do hang out and go do certain things. Like we might go play golf, or we might go ride bikes, or we might go do something like that. And we'll still have conversation and things while we're out there, or even over the phone. But when it comes to like those guardrails of like, I'm not going to be in these situations with him because, again, like you were just talking about, that kind of feeds into the people we surround ourselves. We kind of take on traits from them.
For sure.
So that's a guardrail that I instituted in my own life with that relationship. But that is because I have this moral standard that's over all of my life. And in that's where I exist.
Yeah. Yeah. You can be around those people because, you're not going to, maybe at one point in your life, you might have easily could have rubbed off on you, but it's not going to happen anymore. Yeah, you're around those guys, and you're like, well, no, it's not how I'm going to live my life anymore. It's not. I can be around it, but I'm not going to be, corrupted is not the word I'm looking for. But like, yeah,
could be. I mean,
yeah. But yeah, it's just you have these standards. Just because you hang out with somebody, like, hey, I'm going to go drink. You're like, all right, well, I'm going to bounce. So yeah. So I'm not going to get involved in that anymore. Or we're going to go out to Top Golf, and you're like, well, I know they're going to be drinking there, so I'm like, all right, I'll catch y'all later.
Yeah, and I mean, it's unfortunate, but sometimes in your life, that's just how it has to play out. Right. Sometimes you just have to be like, I can't go. Yeah. It is what it is. It's sad.
We're going to get margaritas with the girls. Like, yeah, I'm out. Sorry.
Yeah, we're out. I got to go home. Yeah. Which I've never, one time in my life, been upset that I went home.
Yeah.
I have many times in my life been upset that I stayed out somewhere too long.
For sure.
And so there is that factor as well that you start to look at. But then, you have to have humility as a leader. You have to have the ability to respond appropriately. When we talk, let's think about it from like a corporate sense. If you're the leader of a team or a sports sense or whatever, but if you're the leader of a team, victories of the team or victories you have in part because of the team are not your victories. They're the team's victories. But failures and losses you take are yours.
Yep.
And there's a distant separation. Think about, we can go back to Adam and Eve even with this, because Adam is the leader of the relationship. He is set up in that way.
Yeah, the man's supposed to be the spiritual leader of the relationship.
Right. Eve makes the mistake, but Adam takes punishment as well, because obviously Eve got in trouble too. And even if you're a leader of a team, the whole team is going to have an issue. But, there's something interesting in Adam's response where he tries to blame Eve, and God punishes Adam anyway. And that's a lesson for us of like, no, when we take a loss, it's on us. And then we correct it behind closed doors with our team or our family or whoever it is, what the situation is. But publicly and on the outside, we take it on. You can go over to Timothy, 1 Timothy, whenever he's talking about the qualifications for an overseer. One of the qualifications is to not have an unruly child. That child is the unruly one, but the dad takes on the consequence. Yep. In your house, whenever your family's going through something or struggling something, that consequence is yours. Now you have to try to fix it inside of the house, but publicly,
you take the L.
You take the L.
Yep.
And that's something that, a lot of people don't want to do. They want to pass the blame. Yep. And it's, especially when your kids get older, you look at your kid and he's like 16, and you're like, you're the stupid one.
Yeah.
Like you made the mistake. But reality is maybe you didn't teach something right, or maybe you didn't help invest enough or do whatever it is. And sometimes kids are just kids.
Yeah. But so back when I first joined the Air Force, there's a school called Airman Leadership School, and you have to go to it before you can be a supervisor. We went through, it's like a 6-8 week course or whatever, and you go through it and you're there every day for hours doing nonsense. Basically, you're just there to get your training in so you can learn how to be a supervisor and go back to your normal sections and be a supervisor. At the end, one of the things you have to do is like vote on who is the best leader of the whole group, because you're there for a while and you vote like, this guy helped out. He stayed after class helping everybody else out, wrote extra papers, was there doing all the extra things that he didn't have to do, but he did it anyway, he or she. And we voted on this guy. And then the award ceremony comes up at the end, and he goes up there to make a speech. And he's like, some awards, like they're like, oh, the leader of, or the class leader for this class, this guy, he gets an award for being the most outstanding leader of the group. He goes up there, he makes a speech. He's like, some awards are not given because I deserved it. And we're about to be like, is he about to just turn this award down? But he's like, the award goes to you guys. And we're all like, yeah, let's go. Yeah. But it was kind of cool. Like, kind of gives that same example. It's like he basically turned the award down. He took it, but sacrificially, he was saying like, this award belongs to you guys. You guys are the people. And I kind of changed my mindset of like, that's what a leader is supposed to do. That's what a leader is supposed to be like. Yes, he got an award for it, but like he gave the award essentially to everybody else. And then like you saying, also reminds me, like you went to Timothy, but I went to like Coach Belichick or Saban or whatever. Like every time they lose a game, they'd be like, it's on me. I didn't put in the time special teams this week, or I didn't, talk to my O-lineman like I was supposed to, or do this or whatever. But they don't blame, like the coaches that are bad, they blame the team. They're like, oh, my special teams coordinator was trash, or like calling out their own players. Like those are the coaches that you don't. Those are trash coaches that they have. But then like when they win, they're like, oh yeah, it was my quarterback, it was my running back, it was my defensive lineman. Those are the reasons we won, not because he doesn't take the W whenever he gets it.
Yeah, I'll run out of Thunder examples at some point soon. But post game after the finals, after Game 7, they were giving out the awards, and they give the Larry O'Brien trophy. The whole team goes crazy, the whole arena goes crazy. But then they give the MVP award and they give it to Shea, who deserved it. But Shea takes it, and whenever they ask him questions, Shea immediately turns the conversation to J-Dub, and he's like, no, actually, he deserves this as much as I do, and then hands the trophy to Jalen and tells him to makes him celebrate with it and be like, no, it's Jalen, or it's Shea's trophy. Yeah. He took it home, but it was one of those moments of like, yeah, remember that game where I didn't play well for 3 quarters and Jalen went for 41? We don't win without him going for 41. So, like, this is as much his trophy as it is mine, which I thought was really cool. And I think it speaks, we talked one of the last couple episodes about the culture they developed as a team. And I think that's part of that culture, because every other superstar in the league is just like, yeah, it's mine. Right. I did this, but he didn't. And he showed that. And he'd already won every MVP you could win that leading up to that moment. So this wasn't like it was unexpected for him to be the most valuable player this year. But for him to do that was really cool. Yeah, it's just kind of like I had heard a conversation the other day. Somebody was like, well, if you're the leader, when do you ever get your wins? I'm like, once you become a leader, your wins are like, you get no more wins. Your wins are done. Yeah, it's like kind of the sucky thing about being a leader, but it is what it is. But you do get it. It's different though. Like you do get wins. Yes. But I think it's interesting. Like whenever let's say we have an incredible night of Pointman, and we look at the team around us, and it's like, I'm just happy that y'all are happy, that the guys that are there are happy, that whatever, it's not like that's a win for me. Like you came up to me one night and were like, oh, that worked. That was after an event. You're like, oh, that was good. Felt good to get a win. Yeah, I was like, that enough was like, it was an awesome night, and I was having a blast and got to do some cool stuff that night. But whenever you said that, I was like, that was worth all of it, because it was just like, now you felt vindicated that, the outcome was good. And as the leader, really, it's like you are, as a leader, you're only leading a small group of people. Now, you may be responsible for a large group of people, but you're only really leading a small group. A lot of times of managers or of in your house, it's your kids. It's a small group of people. Now, their impact could grow to be immense because your kids could go on to have kids, or they could go on to do incredible things. But, you're really intentionally leading a small number of people. So whenever those small number of people feel like they won, then you feel like you won immediately. And so you do get victory, but you're just not going to stand there and hold the trophy. Yeah, exactly. Like the external, like
you won't ever see it publicly that you take the W, even though you're in your heart like, yeah, my team, we crushed it.
Yeah, we got
we
this.
did it.
Yeah.
We got that dub.
Is there ever a time you think, though, where you could be so confident? Like, let's say you actually did do everything.
To my use a leader of the team.
As the leader.
Okay.
You're the leader of the team. The team fails, but you pull them out of the hole. Is it confidence or arrogance if you take the victory there?
If you pull the team out, I don't think you can ever be in a situation where you're like, I pulled the team out. Like, it's always like you got to say, it's got to be like, we together did it. You can't ever use the words like I or me. You have to be like we did
I
it.
agree. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's got to be the term where Pastor Craig always says, like, you first leadership. It's always got to be your people. I think that's what makes us as a good leader is like someone who's always looking out for your team. That's what I've been noticing a lot lately of like all of the leadership things that you listen to. It's always like me, never me. Don't say me. Don't say I. Say we, them, our people. Those type of words, because that's what actually makes a good leader, and then not somebody who says I or me.
I think you're right.
Yep.
I also think that when you are a competent leader, you feel. Let's just put that mic around. You do feel awkward when people try to give you the glory for when somebody else succeeds or someone else takes a step forward and someone comes and congratulates you. You feel awkward. You're like, I didn't. No. They did that. Like, they worked their butt off. They figured that out. They just happened to be inside of this unit that we were working on.
Well, you just got to think like there was so if I go off on a tangent for a second, there was a big project that we had to get done. This is when I'm very first beginning in leadership at my job. There was a huge project, and they were like, you have to get this done by today. We had to get so many printers from every single building that we had. There was 15 buildings. We had to go get the printers and take them to this other printer before the end of day. And it was pouring raining outside, and we were like, what do you mean? And they were like, you have to get it done. And so I'm looking at myself like, I can't do this. Me, myself, and I can't do this. And then one of the guys who is my supervisor came up to me and was like, it's not you that needs to get this done. It's your team that needs to get this done. Right. So I told the two best people that I knew, I'm like, hey, we have to get everybody together and we got to get this done. Okay. So I got a meeting together and I was like, what's the plan? Because I'm the boss, but I don't have a plan to get this done. And I was like, it's not getting done. In my head, I'm like, this is not getting done. And then these two people, one person was like, all right, I'm going to go be the lead person. I'm going to go tear down everything we need to do, push it outside. Next other group of people was like, all right, we're going to get a team together and we're going to go from building to building and just snag them up. And at the end of the day, we barely got it done. And I was like, I literally did nothing. They were trying to congratulate me, but I'm like, it's the team. That's the whole reason that they actually got done is because we came together as a team, even though I felt like I did nothing except for kind of panic and be like, let's get it done. So it was very eye opening to me is what you can accomplish with a team versus what you think you can just accomplish on your own.
Yeah, it's hard as a leader. Depending on your leadership style, it's hard to sit back and feel like there's many times I feel like I do nothing, but everything gets done. Yeah. And you feel almost kind of like there's doers, and some people are just workers and doers who are still have the aptitude of leadership, but they just in their heart of hearts they want to make sure that it gets done, so they want to be a part of it. And it's so hard for me to sit back and watch everybody else do everything, even though I know that's what's right, and I know that helps
'cause you're a doer. Yeah.
But it's just I want to do it. I want to make sure it gets done. Mm-hmm. Also, I have the plague of being a bad challenger of everything, and so it's well, if you do it poorly, I'm just going to move on from you.
Tough to delegate stuff.
Yeah. And it's tough for me to trust people with it because I want it to work the first time. I don't want to have to fix it. I want it to just work. Yep. But that's part of development of people and development of your kids or whatever it may be, is that when you're leading them, at some point you have to release the leash, allow them to make the move, and then you have to be willing to come back in and correct it. And that comes into kind of the last thought I had on these kind of attributes of a leader, but the last one's courage. You have to be courageous. And this is maybe one of the most important in this, because when you're leading things, there's times where you're just not going to know the outcome. You're not going to know if what you're doing is going to work. And I think there's instances where it's you see the steps in front of you. Now you may step on a landmine, but the steps are in front of you. I think of did you ever watch the Mr. Beast Squid Games?
Mr. Beast, no, I didn't. I think I did watch a couple of episodes. Is a few of them right, or is it just one?
I have no clue. I think it was just one.
I think I might have watched one or two. Yeah.
Well, there's one of the games. It's in the movie or the show too, but they're on a suspended bridge, and there's these glass things they have to jump to, and every time they jump, they're side by side, and one is real and one is like sugar glass. And so if they step on the sugar glass one, they just fall through. If they step on the right one, then they are able to take the next step. Having courage as a leader is a lot like this game, because it's like, all right, I don't know if the next step is going to hold us, but I know we have to take the next step or we all are going to fail. And so as a leader, you jump. Yeah. And whenever it does hold you, you build on that and you jump again and you keep going until you reach the goal. Every now and then, though, you're going to hit sugar glass or you're going to fall through.
For sure.
And then I think there's times where the future is completely uncertain. You have no clue where you're going. Maybe you're starting a new business, or maybe you're taking your family across the country to live somewhere else for some reason, or whatever it may be, and you have absolutely no idea what the outcome's going to be like. But you still have to have courage to do it, and it still takes courage to do it. I used to run those long races, and there was a team that would always go with me to different places, varying in size depending on how long the race was. But one constant was my grandfather. He would go with me to all of them, and he was typically the driver. So we would all just kind of pile in his truck, and he would take us wherever we were going because everybody else would be exhausted. Nobody could drive home, so he would do all the driving. But he would call me every single race, like 2 days before, and would say, hey, if you get too tired, you can quit. And as, the athlete that was performing, I was also the de facto leader of the team of like, here's the goal, here's what we're trying to accomplish, here's what it's going to take. And so even in that instance for him, I had to be like, I appreciate your concern. We're going to do this. Like, we're going to make it. Even I didn't even know if we were going to make it half the time, but it's just like I had to have the confidence that I could physically do it, or the team didn't feel like it was worth even going. So you have to have that sometimes where it's like, I don't know if I'm going to make it to the finish line, but you're going to think I'm going to make it to the finish line, because that's how we're going to make even the first step and get to the starting line of this thing.
Yeah. Jerry Seinfeld has a famous, I think it's on, like how on Seinfeld, the actual show, he'll have like a stand-up routine.
Yeah, right at the beginning.
He has one of those episodes where he talks about like who is responsible for this. Like he says, I never want to be responsible for this, because he said every time there's a major incident, major accident, plane crashes or, car crash, or there's some horrible incident happens at like an arena, and they're like, who is responsible? And he's like, I never want to be responsible. who's that? And he's like, but like, you as a leader, you are responsible. Yeah. So it's like, you can't be afraid to fail, because sometimes, you do fail. That's what I think that's what you learn the most from, is when you actually fail. So like, you got to be, when you're the leader, like there's nobody else that gets put on your shoulders, nobody else's. So yeah, that's what it is.
That's 100% true. And in the instance of like those races and stuff, if I started to look like I was in pain and I hadn't adequately prepared the team for these moments, then they would start to shut down, because they were like, oh, he's almost done. But then the races where I had trained with them, talked with them, told them what we were going to do, told them the goal, the strategy, like when they saw me start to break down, they got creative with how they could pick me back up. They would go, we were at a race once, and it wasn't supposed to be cold at all, but it got down to like 30 degrees, like out of nowhere. It just started freezing. Like my hat froze to my head. Like it was rough. All of our food froze. And so we're in a 24-hour race. We're 12 hours in, and we literally can't eat the food, like any of the whole food that we had brought, because it was all frozen. And so they were like running to Taco Bell at like 1 a.m, which not a great place to get food for a race. But there's nothing else open. So they were just trying to find places with, like 24-hour drive-thrus just to get food. So we had guys running like 2 towns over, getting food and bringing it back, going and getting drinks and bringing it back, because everything we had froze up. But when they saw me struggling, they just got creative. They're like, all right, he needs food. Yeah. Where can we get some food? What can we do? How can we, essentially pull him out of this hole he's in? Another guy started running with me and just started talking. And, we just talked for like 3 hours until finally somebody got back with some food. I ate the food, got back to running, and then felt fine for, 6 more hours or whatever it was. I was almost done. Like, mentally, physically, I just felt broken because I had no energy left. The race was so far from being done that I didn't think there was any chance we were ever going to get to the finish line. But because I'd prepped them, because I'd involved them in the process, given them kind of tasks throughout the training and throughout everything. One guy was kind of our strength guy. And every time we'd go to the gym, he was the one who would work out with me. Another guy was the runner. Every time we'd go run, he'd be there and be running. And so like they were aptly prepared for what was coming. And the whole time leading up to it, I'd already done this race a couple times. And so I was able to tell them, like what was coming, like, hey, this is going to happen. I'm going to say mean things to you. I'm not going to be the nicest human forever, but they were prepared for it. And even though I didn't know if I could make it, I never made it. I still haven't ever made it. We still crapped out in that one. They'd never even been there. Yeah. So we were still running off into the unknown, but by including them in the process, they knew what to look for and knew how to fix the problems as they came.
Yeah. So the bean burritos didn't work when you're running 20 miles. It just comes right.
I don't even remember what I ended up eating.
I don't want to eat five bean burritos.
I used Taco Bell, but I don't even think that. I think they brought back a pizza maybe.
Okay.
I think they found somewhere that was still open with pizza, and that was fine. Actually, the worst part was they got all the food back, and we ate, and then like an hour later, my stomach turned over. And I was hiccuping. I didn't ever vomit. Nothing ever got like to that point.
That's terrible. Yeah, I've been there. Yeah.
But I hiccuped for like hours. And so I couldn't eat because it would turn my stomach and then I'd start hiccuping again. So I lived on, I ate so many vanilla Oreos. Like I went back and looked at like the calorie count in an Oreo and it's like ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
It's like 100 per every 2 or something like that. Yeah. I ate 2 trays of vanilla Oreos and 2 bags of pickle flavored Lay's potato chips.
No, that's a weird combination, but yeah, got to get the run done.
Whatever I could get
some
down.
Salt,
yeah,
some sugar. But I was going to say, to your point of that, it reminds me a lot of the saying, every business is a solution to a problem. And you have to look at everything as a business, as a leader, as a solution to the problem. You are basically the person who is running a business. I say business, but it could be literally whatever aspect of your life that you're leading. You have to have the solution to the problem. So like at my work, we need to fly airplanes. My business is, the problem is not having airplanes in the air. I need to solve that problem every day. That's
no, it's good. That's perfect.
Plug in whatever your job is that day. There, whatever you're doing, there is a solution to it. And if you're a leader, like you're saying, you're running a team and you don't have or you're not telling your team that there is a solution to the problem, and then your team is just going to be crap because they don't believe that there is a solution. Like you have to have that vision and that will, and you have to have that processes to be able to find solutions to the problem, whatever the problem is. And a lot of businesses is just problem of not making money. You need to find the solution how to make money.
Well, and you know how the most successful businesses make money is that they look around and they see the problems, and then they find the solution to fit it. And it's not necessarily that it's like, oh, we need to make more money. Yeah. It's like, okay, what is the actual issue here? Think about like tech companies, for instance. That's essentially what they do. Yeah. They look around and they see where's the gap in whatever, in AI, what's the gap in social connection, and they're like, how can we fix that? Yeah. And then they find a solution for it, they sell it, and they make a crap ton of money. So really the heart of it isn't so much the end goal as much as it's what's the problem we're facing. Yes. It's like as a parent, you may look at your kid and be like, all right, my kid isn't succeeding. Is the problem that he's not trying hard enough? Yeah. How do I get him to try harder? Is the problem that he's unable to read it or to whatever, to physically do it, whatever it may be? Can I get him? Is there some solution to this piece of it that will unlock the rest of him or her in their life? But that's the thing. It's like, if I look to, it's like, okay, my kid's not succeeding. He's not making the grades, for instance. It's like, okay, do I just write him? Or do I look at it and say like, hey, why are you not? What's the gap? What are you not understanding? What can we do? Some kids, they're just not doing their work. But, for others, they may just be struggling. Like they can't read or understand because they don't know how to read it or whatever it may be. And it's like, all right, well, let's find the tutor or let's find the thing that can help us. And so, like you say, you're leading a business. You're finding a solution to the problem that's presented. No doubt. And everything in life at its core is a business.
I 100% agree with that. And like you're saying, like you're trying to raise your kid and you say the problem is not having a kid who can defend on their own when I'm gone, or a kid who can be an adult after I'm gone, or not even before we're gone, before they're out of the house. So like the problem is they're not doing what they need to be doing, so that when they are on their own, that they can accomplish whatever you think that they need to be able to accomplish. So like the problem is, I say they're not doing their homework. One day they're going to be like not doing their stuff at work, and it's going to be an issue for them. So like, hey, you need to make it important to them. Explain like, hey, just because you're not doing homework, one day you're going to have a job where you need to feed your wife, you need to pay your rent, you need to have money to have gas to get to work. And they're like, yes, this is a small solution thing now, but you're teaching them in the long run that one day it's going to be more important than it is before they get out of your house. So,
yeah. And, as parents, there's the absentee parent, and you don't want to be the absentee parent because your kid's not being trained. But then the overcorrection of that is like the helicopter parent who solves all of their kids' problems for them.
Yeah, and they get an adult and they have no clue what to do.
Still calling mom and dad for which everybody still calls their parents for advice on things, or like, oh, they already know how to do this. Let me learn from them and let them teach me. My kid's moving out soon, and every week I just check in like, hey, what's the job situation? Do you have enough hours? Are you making enough money? No. Well, what do you think you should do about that? It's like, oh, I got to get this other job, or I got to call this person. It's like, okay, when are you going to do it? I'm not calling them for you. Apartments. Last night, actually, I was talking to him, and I was like, have you checked on where you're going to move to? And he was like, yeah, I called so-and-so and so-and-so. I was like, so did you, reserve it? Like, did you do anything with it? No, I hadn't done that yet. And I'm like, well, you got 6 weeks. Like, a helicopter parent would have called the apartment complex and scheduled the appointment for him. Yeah. And part of me wants to, because he needs to go on and he needs to move out for his own development. Like, he's just reached that point. Yeah. But I'm not going to do that. I'm like, oh, well, I mean, there's 3 apartment complexes within 2 miles of where you're looking. All of them fit your budget. You need to think about the other expenses you're going to have, but you need to start, you got to move out soon. So you got to figure out where you're going to go.
Yeah, I feel like it's a tough balance, because I've seen parents where they're like, all they do is just helicopter, and the kid gets older and they're like still living at home. They're like, well, I don't know how to apply for jobs, so I'm just not going to them. Maybe my mom will do it one day. And you're like, bro, you got to grow up. Like, but there also is, I see the other side of that. I've seen families where they're like, the kid's 5 years old and he's like super mature, is because his parents were like, you got to figure it. You got to get up and grab your own Pop-Tarts, bro. Like, you got to do it yourself, because I'm not there to help you out. So like, there's got to be a balance in there somewhere. Like, tough to find, because I'm still trying to figure it out myself too.
It's really funny. My parenting experience has a gap.
Yeah, you got a little bit of a gap there.
Because I had a 13-year-old, and then I had a newborn. So I have this gap from however old my newborn is, essentially, which he's almost 3.5 now, but and then my now 19-year-old, turning 19-year-old. So my experience is growing like twofold, but there's this like in-between gap. So I'm still like learning new things about like life stages and development, while I also foresee the future, because I've already experienced the future too.
That's cool. Yeah.
It's kind of an interesting like way of looking at it. But I'll tell you this, my youngest kid will be far more independent, because I parent him. I love him like a 3-year-old, but I parent him like he's older.
No.
Because that's my experience with it. So like, he knows where all the food is at 3, and he goes and gets it for himself and brings it to us. Like those sorts of things. Now he's 3, so he still throws fits and things like that. But it's really interesting to kind of see that development. So I will be interested to see if it is like by the time he's 6, if he's just like, I got this.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to tell the audience like why you have such a big gap or not. Some people might not know your a song story or not, but I don't know if...
me and my wife adopted a 3-year-old and a 12-year-old. So 7 years ago now.
It's been a minute now.
7 years ago, I think now. And our daughter had cancer. She passed away, and then obviously my son still exists because he's the one moving out soon. Yep. And then we raised him, and then when he was 16 or 17, we had a kid that we didn't adopt. We had a natural birth kid. And so I got a newborn, and then I had a kid who was leaving high school at the same time.
Right, I was just like, it might be a little confusing if you don't know who you are. But yeah, I 100% agree. And I think it's better to lean, my opinion, like I feel like I'm not a good parent I don't think I have a great parent advice. I have a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 6-month-old. So like, I'm still learning every single day. I hear it gets even harder whenever they get a little older, because then a lot more bigger problems than just not getting their blanket before they go to bed.
Teenagers are fun.
But in my opinion, I feel like it's weird to even give my opinion on it, but I feel like it's better to have them be more mature and earlier than be more of a helicopter. Because I want Reese to be able to be at a table here in a couple of years and order his own food. I don't want to have to be like, okay, he wants chicken tenders and Sprite. Like, I want him to be like, be able to interact with the world as well. So like, I know, like, I don't want to be him be at the table and like be 12 and be like, I don't know how to order my own food. Like, I wanted you to be like, I don't know, be a man,
Yeah.
Let's go.
No, I don't think it's wrong.
Yeah.
I don't think it's wrong. Like Hassan, whenever he was old enough, he got a job at 14 or 15. Like, it was quick. He got a job, and that was very much intentional because I did that when I was a kid. But I learned so much, and he has learned so much of like how to handle authority, how to manage money, how to work in the first place, how to interact with people in society. Kids who are typically helicoptered, they don't understand how to interact with people. No. They don't understand what's appropriate and inappropriate. They don't understand proper authority. Like, there's all these things that they don't develop and they miss because they weren't ever pushed out to figure it out.
Yeah, I feel like it's the problem solving that they're like, I don't know, somebody else will solve the problem.
Yeah, call my mom.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like, you get out in the world, like the whole example of like getting an apartment, like, they're never going to do that because they're like, I've never had a problem solved to solve my own problems. I don't know how to. I was talking to a grown person the other day. They're like 22 years old, and they're like, I never called the doctor. I don't know how to make a doctor's appointment. I'm like, bruh, like, you got to grow up. You got to Google a doctor.
Yeah.
I had to like tell them, like, this is how you get a doctor. That's just, but it's like some people, they never had to do that in their life, so they just get coddled. I don't know.
They do, but we have this like, and we've lost leadership as our topic, but I
don't know where we're at right now.
But there's like we've almost like started making excuses for generations of people too. Like, I hear people all the time be like, well, that's just how millennials are. We have to lead Gen Z in a different way. And to some degree that's true. Like, if you lead a team or you're the leader of a group, the people you lead, you still have to lead them.
Yep.
So you do have to adjust the way you do it. But like inside your house, you don't have to do that. Like, my kid for a hot minute would come in and he would be using like slang terms and talking to me in slang terms. And I finally was like, I don't know what you're saying. If you want to talk to me, you'll talk like an adult. And then he stopped and he started talking to me. And it wasn't like, I get that when you're with your friends and y'all talk like that, whatever. Like, I don't care that you're using these weird terms to mean certain things. But in this house, like, I'm the intellectual authority here. You're going to talk to me with like a normal conversation, and we're not going to do this. Like, I'm not learning a new language for you. That's ridiculous. But when you are leading people in the world or in your job or in those things, you do have to learn how to interact with different generations of people. But I do think we've almost like made excuses for them.
Yeah, I really don't like the term like where they're like, well, they're millennial, they're Gen X or Gen Z or whatever, and like because they're in this generation that they're under that assumption. Because I've met some people who were raised correctly and were raised to be mature. Like, some people who are like straight join the Air Force and come in my unit. And I'm like, this kid could run whatever. Like, he's been running a Taco Bell for like, he's been a manager at a Taco Bell for the last 3 years. Like, this dude could run whatever. Like, and he's technically Gen Z, or I don't know, he's 18. I don't know what I
think it's Gen Z.
Gen Z. So like, this dude could run whatever. So like, I don't really like when people like group together, because it's like, they're not all raised exactly the same. I think it's exactly like it's the raising that makes the kid act the way they do. So yeah.
Which there are some identifiable traits,
yes.
and society impacts kids in different ways.
Always having had a phone in your pocket that can tell you every single thing, like whatever you can imagine, you can Google and ask. Like, that's a different generation. Like, they want to know why, which I get it, because like you've always been able to just say why. I can always have why. So like, that is a difference between kids that are raised today, us the same way. It's like, I know we didn't get cell phones until like, I don't know when you got yours first cell phone, when they're like,
I was like 12 or 13.
We weren't like,
but it wasn't a smartphone.
We weren't 8 years old. Yeah, we couldn't Google things on it. Like, we just call people. So like, a little different for us, but still very similar, where we can, now we have the mentality where whatever answer I want to find out, I can Google it. So we always want to know why. And I think that's the big, for me, that I've noticed the biggest difference is like, kids want to know why they're doing them. Like, whatever, tell them why.
Yeah, which I think those types of things generationally, especially from a leadership perspective, are important to know. Like, this is why they do certain things, but I don't think that should negate poor behavior in certain things. I think that's a difference that we have to like get past. Like, oh, I'm sorry, that's just how they are. They're in this generation, which our generation, which you're 30, and I'm 32, so you're in mine. But in ours, like we had the worst. I, honest to God, believe it was the worst generation.
That's the same thing the generation before us said, and the generation before us said.
Our generation is the worst, not the one after us. Like they're saying the one after them. Typically, I actually think we had the worst because we had we definitely had products of helicopter parents surrounding us fully, and that led to not knowing how to rightfully work through social change and issues. Did not handle the pandemic very well as a generation. All sorts of issues that come up, politics and policy, another thing that I don't think our generation has handled very well. I was actually talking to Pastor Brady earlier about, there's an old YouTube series called The Elephant Room, and it was like pastors from different like backgrounds and denominations. They all came together and they debated topics of faith from their their denomination or their kind of like training point of view. And it was fascinating, super interesting. Now, if you look back, you would be like, none of these guys should have been a pastor in the first place, probably. But it was fascinating for the time. And when we were finishing up the conversation, I said, what's the bad thing is you couldn't do that today, because nobody would know how to interact with each other. I said, people would be fist fighting. You'd have pastors in the room fist fighting each other over topics because they don't know how to debate them with any kind of decorum or, respect for one another and their opinions. And that's sad, but I think that's absolutely true, because it'd be a really fun, like, especially today with as many varying ideas that's out there, it'd be a lot of fun to bring something like that back and see it play out.
Yeah. I think it's very interesting. Can I get off topic for just a second? Mm-hmm. My Nana called me the other day, and first thing she said when she picked up the phone, she said, I think she's 90 or about to turn 90. And she was like, what is AI? And I was just thinking, like, you're talking about the generational differences. Yeah. She grew up in a house in Arkansas, in a rural part of Arkansas. Not only did she didn't have electricity in her house, the whole town didn't have electricity. Like, it wasn't in her town yet. Like, it was in most of parts of America, but she was such a rural part of Arkansas that it just wasn't there. And so I was like, in my head, trying to fathom, telling my Nana, explain to her what AI is, like the generational differences between my Nana being 90 years old and like my kids. It's like astronomically different about like, she had lamps in her house, but now our kids have AI in their pockets. So it's just like, I don't know, this crazy difference between that generation and our next generation that comes after us. So crazy.
I was talking to a person one time, and they were like, "You're not that much older than me." And they're probably 5 or 6 years younger than me. And I said, in numbers, yes. I said, but was your first phone an iPhone? And they said yes. I was like, the iPhone didn't exist for nearly a decade of my life. Yeah. Like I vividly remember like when the internet came into our house. I remember when my grandma had a bag phone in her car still. Like all these things, like you didn't experience any of this. Like you came along with maybe next to AI at the time, probably the greatest technological advancement and like forward momentum that we since the atomic bomb probably and the iPhone. And that was crazy change in the way we viewed everything. Because like you said, you had the answers in your pocket like immediately. Yes. Now the internet sucked on the first iPhone, but
slow as crap.
Yeah, it didn't work very well. And all the websites still came up like as the full website. So you were like trying to find stuff. But yeah, the mobile website did not exist really yet. But you still had the ability to, which now like I have a Samsung phone that has the Gemini AI app. The Google AI, and like literally I don't even go to Google anymore. No. I just open the Gemini app and let it find it for me, and then I hit it, which is insane, but it can research and do so many things. And like you say, our kids are going to grow up and that's going to be absolutely normal for them. And for me, it's still like I can't fully wrap my head around what it's doing sometimes.
Yeah, it's probably going to mess us up, like you said, and they're not going to be able to solve problems on their own. They're just going to use Gemini for their whole life. So we're probably screwing them up. Yeah, probably, but it is what it is.
I did read an article the other day. I didn't read it. I saw the headline. I was too tired to read it. But it said that the headline was that use of chat GPT rewires the brain or something like that. And I was like, it's probably clickbaity. It probably wasn't that bad, but could be.
I'm not doing any homework because I'm just putting that sucker into chat GPT and had no homework anymore. So,
yeah. I mean, it's a bad deal, but I do think we have to take all of these things into account. And, as a leader, first and foremost, you have to be your authentic self. If you are genuine with who you are, people will respect you for the faults and the successes that you have far more regularly than if you're not. You have to be self-disciplined in all aspects of leadership, in your house, in your family, in your community, in your church, whatever it may be. You got to be humble. You got to take the L's and give the victories up.
Yep.
You're still going to feel like you won, I promise, in the end if you'll do that. It's way more sweet than if you individually win anyway. And then you got to be courage to take the first step. And you got to be the courage to stand up for what's right and to handle your business and do the right thing. So I think those things are some important characteristics, if you will, of what it means to be a character-led leader. And I definitely think that applies to all aspects of life. I don't think it's just in corporate leadership or in church leadership, but I definitely think it ends up in your family and in your household as well.
Yeah, one of the first thing you said was something about being authentic, and Pastor Craig always has this saying at the end of everyone's podcast: people would rather follow a leader who is real than one who is always right. So like being real and being like, yes, I got problems, even though I'm trying to be your leader, people will rather follow you because they don't want somebody that's fake.
Yeah, 100%. Hey, this has been another episode of the Pointman podcast. I don't think we ever even introduced that with the Pointman podcast today. I think we blew right through that.
Oops.
But I'm Zach, and that's Luke, by the way. And make sure you hit the like and subscribe on your way out before you get out of here, as we are trying to reach men with the Bible and to help train them up into the men God desired them to be. That is why we do this. This is an extension of Pointman, our in-person men's ministry here at that church as well. So make sure you follow us online at that.church. Hit the space bar and then type in man, and then we're at TC Pointman everywhere else. We've got a cool event coming up August the 9th. It's the first ever That Church Pointman Outdoor Expo. We've got some really awesome guests coming in that we will announce in the next couple of days and weeks. So be on the lookout for that, and we'll be back next week with another conversation. So we'll see you then.
See you.